Hi, Arlene. I'm having some computer issues, so I'm on my phone until it gets fixed.
Hello, everybody. How are you?
Hi, Arlene. I'm just having some computer issues, so I'm on my phone. I'm just trying to fix it now.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
Hi, Arlene, how you doing?
Hi, Arlene.
Hi, okay, you guys were
Hi,
on
everybody.
my end. That's why I couldn't hear anybody. Okay.
Hi.
Hi, so sorry it's a little bit late.
It's okay.
Is Anna here?
I'm here.
Oh, you're the best. You're the best. All right, I'm gonna let you take over. Do you want me to introduce you? What would you like me to do here?
Sure. Do that. And I'm just going to add a few files into the chat if everybody didn't get them already.
So we are so blessed and lucky to have Anna with us. She is like the guru of doing the CMAs. I've had the pleasure of being in her class many times before. And she really does. Okay, somebody might have to mute if they're at work. Let me just continue to add people into the waiting room. From the waiting room, okay. All right, I'm gonna try to make Anna you the host.
Okay.
Or you want to be I'll make you co-host so you're able
Yeah,
to.
that'll be perfect. So I can share my screen and get into it with everybody.
Is it
All
okay,
right.
do you mind? I'll put my ears on.
You can put your ears on, Lisa, it'll work.
You know what I mean.
I know what you mean, ear pods. All right, where is Anna? Guys, it would help if I
That's
had
funny, he
my,
always got this background. I think he's always at work.
it would help if I had my,
I'm gonna leave there after next week. This shit's driving me crazy.
Lisa, you're on, we're listening to you.
Arlene, do you want to make me co-host and I can help get people in who are coming? Sorry, guys, we had a miscommunication. We've got my Anna, who's going to be doing her CMA presentation, selecting comparables and all that. She's wonderful.
I'm
But
in
sorry for the
process
late
of
start.
trying to make Anna the co-host so she could share her screen.
Oh, perfect.
It was
Okay.
very easy for me to do it to you. Oh, no, that is Anna. I did it now. All right,
Okay,
I
Patty.
got it. I'm in here.
Patty, you should be fine, or are you on your own?
I'm just an attendee, unless you need me to do more.
No, you could take over and admit people. I gotta go get my glasses.
If I see them, I will. I'm not sure I can do that without being co-host.
Okay, so let me figure out how to find Patty. Go ahead, we got Anna here and she's ready, rock and roll.
Anna, thank you in advance.
All right. My pleasure, guys. All right. So everyone, tonight's class is what I call a truncated version of the One Page Cma Workshop that I've taught over the past probably 3 or so years. Normally the workshop's about 2 to 3 hours in a market center, and we would go through a whole CMA together. But in this Zoom environment, I worked with Patty several months ago and kind of created this a little bit more abbreviated version. What I want to go over with all of you is that I find that there's a million different ways to be able to do a market analysis. There's so much software out there. Even within the MLS, you have just your regular CMA, you have cloud CMA, there's third-party services, and all those tools are great. But what I'm here tonight to teach you is to understand what you need to be looking for and what constitutes a good comp and what you really need to know about the market when you're looking at a neighborhood, looking at a property. And these tips and tools will help you with both buyers and sellers. So I am going to share my screen, and in the chat, I put 3 files in there for everyone. So the first thing that I want to show you, hold on, because I'm not always the best. Okay, so the first thing I want to show you here is basically almost like a syllabus for tonight, and CMA Basics and what we're going to go over. And what we're going to learn today, how to utilize the MLS to pull data on a property and neighborhood, and how to search for comps. And I don't know the where everybody's at in their business in here. So we're just going to start like it's day one in real estate. So what is a CMA? CMA is a comparative market analysis that is an examination of the prices at which similar properties in the same area recently sold. Real estate agents perform a comparative market analysis for their clients to help them determine a price to list when selling a home or a price to offer when buying a home. And we're in a market right now that things have been crazy, and a lot of what will be taught here tonight kind of gets thrown out the window with some of these bidding wars. But you do need a starting point, because there are indicators that the market is starting to soften a bit, and skills and being learning based and everything is going to take over beyond just kind of throwing a sign in the yard and hoping for the best. So two other files that I've shared with you this evening. So I have this quick resource guide, and this is going to give you an idea when you're pulling comps. This is really helpful moving forward too. Just general guidelines of what you're going to be looking for when you're searching properties, and when you want to put like two properties next to each other and understand how they may be similar and how they may be not. Some almost like glossary terms, because there might be some jargon used tonight and you're like, what is she talking about? So this should help you out a little bit. And down here at the bottom, I have some useful websites that are going to come in handy down the road in terms of understanding things like cost to repair and adjustments and everything. We're not going to get into adjustments this evening, but I'll touch upon it very, very briefly a little bit later. And finally, if you guys have a printer at home and you have a moment, I would recommend printing out this worksheet and following along with me. It really helps to stay organized in terms of what we're going to be talking about this evening. It's going to make a little bit more sense as we are getting into it.
And Anna, is this all in the chat?
It's all in the chat. All three of these documents that I just showed you all are in the chat. So what I'm going to do for you tonight.
If I read, or is there any way we could put them in the chat again? Maybe I'll copy and paste them for people that came in after you put them in.
Let me see.
Would that work?
Let me come back. Where? I don't normally share my screen, so I'm a little lost. 1 second. Give me 1 sec.
It's the green button on the bottom, but I'll just put them in the chat again. I should be able to do this, right?
Well, it's still there.
Oh,
I see it.
Everybody can access now?
They should be able to, and then download to their desktop. If anyone has any questions, if you want to email me at pjalal@kw.com, I will send you the handouts. Right, Anna? Is that okay?
Yeah, totally fine. All right. So backtracking a moment. So what we're going to start with is whenever you're doing an analysis, you need your subject property. And the subject property could be a prospective listing that you're targeting. It could be a property that your buyer is interested in. It could be something that you just want to check out for practice. So what I decided for tonight, our subject property is actually going to be a listing that I had about 3 years ago in Waldwick that sold strong at the time. Waldwick, as many of the surrounding towns and many towns in Bergen County, has seen double-digit percentage increases in terms of value over the past couple of years. And I'm really curious to see how much this particular property may have gone up in value. So first things first, so you have an address and you are like, okay, how do I even find information on that address? So you have two ways that you can search in the MLS to find the actual subject property and if there's any data on that property. First would be using this search tool. So if you follow along with me in the MLS and you scroll down to property search. Oh wait, let me backtrack.
Yeah, Anna, I'm seeing you, but not the documents, not the MLS, and I may be doing something wrong. And is that what other people are seeing?
Yeah, it seems like the
I see
screen
like
is-
a distorted document.
No, I
Yeah.
think you didn't share your accurate screen that you want to be on.
Oh, I thought I was.
Yeah, it's just showing the one page CMA, but it's kind of like tilted.
Huh, I'm in the MLS. I don't know why that's not.
Are
Yeah,
you
just
sharing screen?
go back out and stop sharing your screen and then go back in to share screen and change, click where you want it to show up right now, like the MLS page.
All right, thank you.
No problem.
Okay, sorry to confuse everyone.
Oh,
All right,
wonderful.
so
Oh, I think it's
we're in
reassuring that
MLS.
we're all learning. Here you are, Anna.
Okay.
You know how to price a house, but you're willing to learn. Go.
All right, thank you, everybody. So there's two ways to search and find the property if you just have an address to go by. So if you guys wanna just write down this address, we're gonna look up 64 Dora Ave, D-O-R-A, and that's in Waldwick. So there's two ways when you don't know where you're even starting to do that. I like looking through tax records. So when you do a tax search of a property, pretty much if it's ever been in the MLS in like the last 15 to 20 years, it will show some sort of record of that property. If you do a property search and it hasn't been a recent sale or listing, you're not gonna find it. So in the tax search, you're first gonna pick out the area. I know offhand that Waldwick is 264, but if you hit the little magnifying glass and scroll down, you can do it that way as well. Next, we know the street name. So street name is Dora, or again, you can use the magnifying glass and find Dora that way. Okay, and then street number is 64. So typically what I'll do, because I only want to look at that particular one, I'll make it exact. So in this numeric area, I'm putting 64 in both. And now I'm going to search the property. And this is what comes up. So these little icons here mean different things. So this little T is for the tax record. So we're going to delve into that in a little bit. There's a lot of useful information here that we're going to use, both in our subject property information and also when we're pulling our comps. Next, we're not really going to use it, but we have a map function. We have realist property data. We have history records, listing records. And then this will also take you to RPR that may also have additional useful information. So if a property has been listed before in the MLS, under this F where the listing records are, if it was ever listed in the past, you're going to see a blue button like there is one here. If there's no records in NJMLS for it, that box is going to be gray. And if it's either currently active or under contract, that box is going to be gold. So the history button will show us over time how this property has been listed, and it's listed a few times over the years. And we're actually going to go to the most recent record. So we're just going to hit that little F button, and we're going to pull up the data that we need on this property. So if you look at the worksheet that I shared with you, we have our subject property, which is about the middle of the first page of the worksheet. So we're looking at 64 Dora Ave. And it's going to ask, or you want to have an idea of what the condition of the property is. There's a couple of different ways to find this out. One, you may have visited the home already and you have a good idea of it. The other is you're going to kind of rely on pictures to tell you a story. You could also try doing something like Google Earth and look at the neighborhood and get a sense. So in this case, we'll just look at some pictures and I'll kind of search through what you might be looking for. And again, this is 3 years old, but for tonight's purposes, we'll pretend that this is a little bit more of a recent listing. And so, we're looking on the outside. The outside looks, well maintained, good landscaping, roof looks decent. Like I don't see any red flags in terms of its condition. Inside, you see hardwood flooring, looks nice and clean. The kitchen, so the kitchen's a good indicator of condition. So you can see that this kitchen's relatively updated. It might be a little bit dated to today's standards, but again, still looks like well maintained. So I would say overall, this is an average to good condition property, but I would default more to that it's average because now we have this bathroom. It's a little bit dated to today's buyer standards, but again, nothing specifically wrong with it or bad about it. So that's how we kind of get a sense of the condition of the home. If you were just given this address and didn't know anything about the type of property that it is, about towards the top of the page, you see in this row here where I'm moving my cursor, we have a lot of pertinent information about the home. And one thing that we're looking at is style. So the style is a Cape Cod. And we want to get an idea of how old the property is and what the square footage may be. New Jersey MLS does not disclose the square footage of a home right on the listing. You usually have to dig into the tax records for that. And year built, it will give you a decade. It won't necessarily give you the exact year. So to pull that up, you're going to go into the little T button and pull up the tax record. So about a third of the way down is a lot of really helpful information from when you're pulling up information for a CMA. So here it's going to give you square footage. So in the case of this home, the square footage, or GLA, which stands for gross living area, it's referring to the square footage that's above grade or above a basement. The square footage of this particular home is 1382, so 1,382 square feet. We've got our lot size or our land. So it's showing us that there's 5,001 square feet, or it's a 50 by 100 lot. And the home was built in 1952. So just some notes, if you're not proficient at this or you don't remember, write it down or use a worksheet because you are going to be referencing this information when you're looking up at other comps. So next, we're also going to go back and look at the room count of the property. We want to know how many beds and baths there are. So this home was a 3-bedroom home, had a full bath, and it had a powder room. On-site parking, so there is parking. So there was a nice long driveway on this home, probably room for at least 4 or 5 cars. And it's not obvious, but there is also an attached, or what's known as a built-in garage for this home. And that was in the back. So it does have a garage, even though from the front, it doesn't seem that way. So we know there's, one attached garage, there's a driveway, there's at least, like I said, about parking for 5 or so cars. And there is a basement, and the basement was also finished. So I don't recall if I ever put basement pictures in here when I had the listing, but just know that there is a finished rec room in the basement. All right, so that's the general info that we want when we're looking at a property. Before we start pulling comps, I want to show you how to understand what's going on in the market and in the neighborhood in Waldwick. So on the worksheet at the top, I have this tab that says neighborhood statistics. And what we want to do, because the market's moving kind of quickly, we're going to look back on about 6 months worth of data. If we go back more than 6 months, conditions may change. If we go back more than 12 months, it's not really accurate at all. And if we go back only, like, let's say 3 months, there might not be enough comps per se. So a good rule of thumb is, on average, you want to start looking back at about 6 months worth of data. So there's 2 reports that I want to show you. So when you're pulling up reports in the MLS, it's going to be under this stats tab. And there's 2 important reports. If I just pull up the basics from tonight. So here where I have most useful searches. So we already went through a couple
We're
of these.
actually only seeing the MLS still.
Oh, shoot, sorry.
You have to do the main one in order to toggle between each other.
Okay,
Screen, if that helps you. I said it
yes,
probably wrong.
thank you. No, you're good. Let's see. Did I do that or not working?
We're still seeing just the MLS, so stop sharing. Oh, somebody's
Okay.
trying to get admitted. Hold on. Okay, so stop the share,
Share.
then go back in, and when you click share screen, go to your desktop one.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
Excellent.
Now you
Perfect.
seeing what I see?
Yes.
Yep.
We're looking at
Okay,
the,
awesome.
one page
All right.
facts.
Okay. So, so one thing that we've looked at already, so we looked at our tax search and we pulled up our information about our subject property. The next 2 things we're going to look at, and these are super important, we're going to look at this price range report. It's going to give us an idea of the inventory in town and what the days on market in town are looking like. And we're going to look at the statistics report to understand the list to sales ratio. Now, can anyone tell us what a list to sale ratio is?
What the property is listed for and then what it sells for?
Yes, and it's at what percentage it happens. So in other words, from what it's listed to what it sells, what percentage does that go for? So for example, a $500,000 property that's listed for $500,000 and sells for $500,000, that would be 100% list to sale ratio.
Mhm.
Thank you. All right, so we're gonna go back into MLS, and I'm gonna show you how to pull these 2 reports and how to find information about Waldwick. Oops. Okay. So when you're pulling up a report in the MLS, when you're on the top page here, you're gonna go to this tab, Stats, and there's 2 things that you wanna pull up. So the first thing that we're gonna look at as we scroll down, we're gonna look at this price range report. So this is gonna break it down typically into different price bands in about $100,000 increments. And it's gonna show us days on market in those price bands and some other useful information. So again, we're gonna look at 6 months back. We're only going to look at residential properties. So in other words, single family residential properties. We're in Bergen County. And again, the area for Waldwick's 264, but if you didn't know that offhand, you would just pull it up with the binoculars. And the next thing that's important is the status. So we right now, for tonight's purposes, we want to look mainly at active and sold. We also may look down the road at like expired and under contract and withdrawn, but for tonight's purposes, we're looking at active and sold. So what it's going to do is once we pull up all these points, so we're again 6 months back, residential properties in Waldwick, active and sold, we're going to run the report. Now, have you guys ever seen this report before?
No.
Yes or no? Sorry.
No. No.
Okay. So let me just kind of walk you through what you're looking at. So again, we told the report what we wanted. We wanted to look at 6 months back in Waldwick, and we wanted to look at our active listings, and we wanted to look at our sold listings. So in terms of what's currently going on in the market in Waldwick, we only have 16 listings going on in town. And these little price bands kind of show us where the bulk of these listings are. So of those 16 listings, if you notice, most of the properties are under $600,000. The vast majority are within the 500 to 600,000 range, and there's a couple that are a little less expensive. Overall, this average marketing time is our days on market. So this means on average of all the active inventory in Waldwick, those homes have been on the market about 25 days. So on our worksheet, we just want to make a note of that. That's something that's important to know. Like if we're on a listing appointment or if we're working with buyers, hey, like right now, there's 16 homes on the market. Like Waldwick's your top town. You know, we got to get really targeted in terms of what you're looking for. So the price range of what these different listings are going for. So they range from $329,900 on the listings up to $725,000. And again, our average days on market in Waldwick is 25 days. So that's important to know because we know that things in Waldwick in general are going to be moving pretty fast. Like you're going to list the home and it's probably going to be under contract within about 3 weeks. Other thing that's kind of worth noting is that what's active right now, it's really tight. There's not like a huge discrepancy in prices. We're not talking about homes that are like under 200,000 and going way over $1 million. You'll see that in some other towns or some larger towns. So next, going down to the sold listings. So in the last 6 months in Waldwick, 77 homes have closed. They have sold, according to the MLS in terms of the MLS data. It's not indicative of every last home that's sold in Waldwick because you might have private sales or for sale by owners, but in terms of what is kind of public facing, this is what we know. And then the price range of those properties ranged from $343,000 up to $800,000. And the average days on market, which is pretty in line with the active inventory, was 23 days. So again, if you have a buyer looking in this town, something hits the market, it's kind of indicative that you want to move kind of quickly because that 23 days doesn't just represent when it hits the market, it also represents the time that offers are given and go into attorney review. So it's that period up until you are under contract. So any questions on this report or anything? I move a little fast, I apologize, but any questions that I can answer for you?
So do you pull this report each time you do a CMA?
I typically will. If you use CMA software, a lot of times it's going to do that. But a lot of times I'll even pull up a report like this before I go out with a buyer. Because it's kind of like, okay, what's going on where we're looking? How are things moving? What's the competition out there? And you just want to look knowledgeable to your client, right? Because
It's always
they
great to
don't-
have that stats, right?
exactly. And like, you know, what the stats and the information available to the consumer these days is much more sophisticated than many years ago, but they're not going to have this nitty gritty. You're still going to come out as the professional and as the expert in the market. And again, it took, you know, 15 seconds to pull this. So anyway, so
Anna,
this,
I have
Yeah,
a question.
I have a question too.
Sure.
Go ahead.
I mean,
Susan, right?
you need me to start or is this the way you determine the price for the property or just this is overview of what's going on in the
this
town?
is an overview of what's going on. So when you do a comparative market analysis, regardless of what the specific property you determine may be bought or sold for, you also have to have an idea of what's going on in the entire area or the neighborhood. So in this case, we're looking at the town of Waldwick as a whole as we delve deeper into pricing that specific home 64 Dora.
Do you mind if you show us a strategy how you price it? I do usually go for 3 months or 6 months of active, sold, and under contract, and go in between and see which the prospect property close to. I price it that way.
Anna said earlier, there's many different ways to do it. So this is the way
Correct.
he's teaching us to do it. So let's have an open mind and learn what she is, who's a guru at CMAs, can teach us.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. And the other thing, and thank
Anna-
you, Arlene. And I'm sorry, yes.
No, go ahead. I just have a question when you're ready.
No, I'm ready. What's your question?
Oh, okay, so I had switched over from my phone to my desktop, so I missed
Sure.
the process that you got here by. So you went under the top of the New Jersey MLS where all the
Yep.
the banner is, and okay, you went to stats.
Stats,
then-
and this specific report, we're looking at price range.
Great.
So price
okay.
range gives us an example, or it gives us the stats of what are the different price bands in this town at this time and in the last 6
Right.
months.
Good.
What are things selling for? What's the average days on market? And this is going to come into play more as we get a little bit deeper into pricing the property. Again, software will do this for you, but if you don't have an idea of pulling it up yourself and doing like a little bit more of an analog method, I feel you're not going to be able to interpret the data as well. And I could be wrong, but I'm really passionate about that. So I think it's really important to be able to search some things manually to better understand when things are searched for you automatically. So anyway, so that's
Now it
price
makes you
range.
the expert at it, correct?
Yes. Yes. All right, so next we are going to pull up this report statistics. So under the stats menu, you scroll down to statistics. And what this is going to do, this is going to give us our list to sale ratio. So it'll give us an idea of homes in Waldwick in the last 6 months from what they were listed for what they sold, how were they moving? So going back 6 months, we're looking just at residential homes right now. Skipping ahead, again, I know that it's Waldwick, but you can use the binoculars to narrow things down. And because we're looking at list to sale ratio, we're only looking at sold data. So this is going to pull us up to this report. Sometimes when I'm talking with a client, I might pull this up while we're talking and I might screenshot this and just text it to them, like as I'm talking about like what to expect when we go and look at a property. So what is this telling us? So we're going to go here to this top line on this sold. So this sold line is all 77 homes in the last 6 months that sold in Waldwick. So they listed for an average of 527,000. They sold on average for 544. So what is that telling us? Things are moving above asking. So in general, if a home is priced properly in this market, the buyer in Waldwick is expecting to pay approximately 3 to 4% above asking on a property. So list to sale ratio 103.3. So this is the original list price, and this is the last list price. This is indicative if there was some sort of price adjustment. So again, to simplify the math, let's say, for example, you are looking at a home that's $500,000, and it's telling us that in Waldwick right now, the list to sale ratio is 103.3 thousand. I mean, I'm sorry, 103.3%. It means that that home, based on that math, is going to sell for about $515,000. So that's something that's important to know, both, again, for listing a property and for selling it. So now we're going to go into pulling comps. But
Anna?
before, yes.
Yeah, and it's Patty. Do you use more the average price or the median price when you're speaking with the seller? What do you look at or eyeball?
I look more at the average price.
Okay.
Is it
Yep.
possible to go back one step to, I got lost. I don't know how
Okay.
you got there.
To how I got to this statistics report?
Yeah.
Sure. So what you're going to do when you're on this tab with all the reports under stats, you're going to go down to statistics. I wish the name of the report was like list to sale ratio. It would make so much more sense, but unfortunately it's statistics. So within the statistics right now, we are looking at market conditions in Waldwick in the last 6 months. So in order to do that, we first started looking at our time frame. So we're looking back 6 months. And then we're looking at single family residential homes. The county is Bergen. The area is 264, or you could search it with the binoculars. And because we're looking up a list to sale ratio, we're only looking at sold data. So this is how you pull up the report, and then you're going to hit execute.
So
And that's how you find out this information. Because
All right,
you
thank you.
might have a client send you a listing and say, hey, I really want to go look at this. What do you think is realistic to bid in this market? And before you even look at a single comp, you can just say, hey, you know, in Waldwick, things are going a little above ask. So expect that you're probably going to be above asking, but you know, there's a lot of different things that are going to go into it. But if you just wanted to give them like one really quick idea, this is one way to go about it. Any other questions on list to sale ratio before we move on?
Yes, one, did you determine the price increasement when we went from sale price listed price to sale price last list price? So 103.3 to 103.09. So how do you multiply to get to advise the client, the buyer, what should be put for the offer?
Okay. What you would probably want to focus on with the client is this first column, which is sale price to list price. Another way of putting that is also saying that it's the original list price. Sale price to last list price is how things are moving when there has been a price adjustment. Whether someone did a reduction or an increase, that's the ratio. But in general, especially because we're just initially hitting the market, we're gonna look at the list to sale price, the original price. Okay,
So
other questions
multiply-
on that?
We multiply the original price by 1.3.3 when we determine how much the offer should be.
Yeah, that will give you an indication. It's not as simple as saying you have to go in there at 515,000. It's the only way you're going to get this property. It really doesn't work like that, but it helps to drive that conversation of, you know, you love this house. I just want to give you an idea. Based on the condition, we know there's multiple offers on the property. You might want to consider going a little bit above ask in order to get this. And here's the data to support why you may want to do that.
Thank you.
All right, so next, guys, I'm going to show you how you would pull these comparable properties for 64 Dora Ave. One thing that I tell people over and over when you're pricing properties and when you're comparing properties is the like with like principle, meaning you are not going to compare, in an ideal world, you're not comparing a 4,000 square foot ranch on an acre lot with a 2,000 square foot colonial on a 50 by 100 lot. They're different styles, it's different square footages, it's apples and oranges. So 64 Dora Ave is a Cape Cod home. So let me pull it up one more time. This is another shortcut up here at the top. So 64 Dora is a Cape Cod home, and it's 3 bedrooms and 1 bath. So what we want to do is, we already know that in the last 6 months, 77 homes sold in Waldwick. So we know not everything's going to be a Cape Cod. So what we want to do now is we want to find homes that are similar to 64 Dora. So what we're going to do, what's the first thing we're going to do? We're going to look back at 6 months and we're going to look for Cape Cod homes. Let's see what that search is going to bring us to. And from there, we can narrow down and find some better comps. So for simplicity's sake, right now, I'm going to look back at 6 months, but I'm only going to look at sold properties. So in order to search the properties, you're going to go up to this search tab. You're going to choose property search. It's going to take you to this screen. My MLS by default defaults me to Bergen County, but you would choose Bergen County if yours did not default to that. And I know that Waldwick is 264, as we've mentioned already, but we're going to use the binoculars and we're going to scroll down until we just choose Waldwick. By default, it's going to do active, but we need to look at what's sold. So we hit the edit the highlight. I'm going to uncheck active. I'm going to choose sold. If I just do this, it's probably going to give me thousands of listings. So we already said we're going back 6 months. So you choose the detailed status option, and that will give you a drop down up to 24 months that you can look. And you can even get more detailed in there by giving specific date ranges. But again, we're just doing a snapshot. So going back 6 months in Waldwick of what's sold. And then what we're going to choose as well is the style. So under style, we just want to look at Cape Cod homes, just to start. So 20 Cape Cods have sold in the last 6 months in Waldwick. So that's a lot to go through. So now we want to kind of figure out what's most similar to 64 Dora Ave. And what we're seeing here as we're looking down this list is we see a wide range of values. We're seeing as low as 390 and as high as 630. We're seeing different bedroom and bathroom counts. So we need a way to narrow this down because this is way too many properties to look at. We want to maybe be like looking through about, I don't know, maybe about 10 or so to find good comps. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to revise the search. We're still going to keep that Cape Cod. But why don't we minimize how many bedrooms? We know that Dora was a 3-bedroom house and see what that gives us. So this gives us 7 properties to look at. And still giving us a little bit of a wide value range. So maybe 3 bedrooms wasn't the way to go. So I'm going to remove that. And what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the map search. So Waldwick is kind of spread out. It's a couple of square miles, but it's like long and narrow in how it's spread out. So we kind of don't want to necessarily have a home on the other side of town. So I'm going to do this map search. And I want to look at things that are within a half mile of Dora Ave and see how things are selling that way. Oops, I didn't put the address in. So this map search actually defaults to your office. So I'm going to recenter it. All right, so we've got our radius search of half a mile, 64 Dora Ave. We're going to submit this map criteria. And this now gives us 9 homes.
How do you get that
to look
area?
at. You're going to hit this button, map search.
Yeah. So the map comes up. So I'm on Godwin Avenue.
So you're going to do the 64 Dora Ave, which is where this subject property is. You're going to hit recenter. And it's going to take you there. And then I did a radius search. So what I'm doing, I hit this radio button and I'm looking within half a mile of Dora. Because that
I think we're not seeing what you're seeing.
Yeah.
Oh no, really? I'm so sorry.
Unfortunately, Realist does the same thing. Where you think you're showing something, but it somehow doesn't come on Zoom. So what I would advise everyone to do is to listen to what Anna's saying, read what's on the screen, and just try to, when you get off this call, go ahead and try what she's saying.
Yes, I'm so sorry about that. So the map search is going to be a pop-up menu and it's going to allow you to put in the address and it's going to let you do a radius search. And so we now have 9 Cape Cod homes within half a mile of Dora Ave that sold in the last 6 months. So that's going to be, if someone's looking in that neighborhood for a Cape Cod home, these are probably the homes that they were looking at and what we're going to use to price it. And now we want to look and see what might be a good comp to this property. So let's look at this 64 Moore Ave, because even just on the surface, it has some similar qualities to Dora. It has 3 bedrooms. It has 2 full baths. Dora had 1.5, but it might be somewhat similar. So let's see. Wow, you guys. So this home was listed for $324,000 and it sold for $390,000. That's insane.
Yep, that's the market.
That is the market. So
we do have a question in the chat. I just want to make Is there a
What's
way
the
of
question?
doing the map search for multifamily homes?
I don't,
Wasn't
I
sure,
don't
so I couldn't
recall.
answer.
No, the map search usually only works for single
Yeah.
family, but
That's
one
what I thought.
workaround is you can do a zip code search. So for example, like let's say you're looking at a town like Patterson. Patterson has probably 5 or 6 zip codes. So you might not be able to do a tighter map search through that search function, but you could maybe look at one specific zip code and do it that way. All right, so looking at 60 Amore Ave, comparing it to Dora Ave, we can already see it's not as updated a property. It's probably still average condition, but it definitely is going to need work for like today's buyer standards. So it's one to think about, but it might not be our best comp. And then I also want an idea, like what was the lot size on this and what was the square footage? So the square footage of this home is only 896. That is tiny. That's, about 500 square feet smaller than, I'm sorry, 400 square feet smaller than Dora Ave. But other things are kind of similar. The year built and the lot size are within range. So wouldn't necessarily rule out this comp, but it's going to show maybe like the lower end of the value of Dora Ave. So looking at some other homes, moving on to this Grove Street one. So a couple things that are different with Grove Street compared to Dora. Dora was a 3-bedroom home. This is a 4-bedroom. Dora was 1.5 baths. This is 2 baths. And Dora's lot size was 50 by 100 or 5,001 square feet. This one's a little bit bigger. It's 50 by 125. It also, it has a garage similar to Dora's and everything. And let's see the condition inside. So kind of like Dora, it's probably, relatively turnkey, but it has some elements that are dated. So minus, the room counts and the lot size, right now it's looking like a pretty good comp. I just want to double check how it is compared to the square footage. So square footage is 1497. So it's about like 100 square feet bigger. So this actually is probably going to be a pretty good comp for Dora. I don't think Dora is necessarily going to be 435 because it's, one less bedroom, less bathrooms and everything, but it's one that's makes for a good comp. Next, we're going to look at this Lincoln Place. So right away, this is good for Dora because this one is 4 bedrooms. Okay, 1 bedroom additional, but it's only 1 bath. Similar size lot, 50 by 100 lot. There is no garage, so that's something to note. So that's something that's a little bit different with Dora. And let's just kind of check out the condition. So carpet's not everybody's favorite, but it still looks like it's a relatively well-maintained home, a little bit dated. So I think this would be another good comparable property. Has a finished basement. It's a powder room in the basement. So a lot of similarities to Dora. So that's one to consider as well. So at this point, I think we're going to eliminate 68 more Ave from the conversation, because I think based on what we're seeing so far, the Grove Street and the Lincoln Place properties are a little bit better. And let's also check out this 78 more and see how this one compares. All right, so we don't have a garage. We have kind of a similar interior where we have things that are like well maintained, maybe a little dated, but not necessarily bad. And this one, it's another one that has similar attributes. So even though it has one additional bedroom, it has a similar bathroom count. It's on a similar sized lot. And let's just check out the square footage. 1328. So it's just a little bit smaller than Dora. So this is one we're gonna consider as well. All right. All right, guys. So I'm gonna stop sharing for a moment and just be able to look at all of you. So what questions do you have on pulling those comps so far? Because I know I went through it a little bit fast. Yep,
I
go
have
ahead,
a
Alina.
question. I have a
Let me see a
question just about the terms. So I have done some of this today. I'm trying to research a very strange property in Fairlawn. It's technically a duplex, but it's basically a house that was split down the middle and sold at some point to two different owners.
Sure.
So I have the tax record for one, because the MLS doesn't, I don't think it was ever on the MLS. It was for sale by
Sure.
owner turnover.
Okay.
So I do have an appraiser's report though, and it lists the livable, the term is like livable space, which is like almost twice as much as the actual square foot on the tax record. So can you tell me about that? Does that make sense to you?
It lists the livable square footage, and you said it's almost double of what was on the tax record?
Right. So the tax record lists the approximate building square feet as 401. And then on the actual appraisal, he lists the gross living area. That's the term.
Okay.
Gross
GLA, yep.
living area as 912 square feet.
Okay. So that is a pretty large discrepancy.
Right.
One thing I can tell you, an appraiser's records is going to be more accurate than the tax records, because it's more recent. You also said that somewhere along the line that property got split into two. So the other thing, there's something else that might have happened when the property was appraised. Was it already a duplex, or was it looking at the full two properties?
No, so it was actually owned by my friend. She bought it 20 years ago and has since sold off half of it. And that's the half that actually does have the MLS listing that I can refer to, that I just told you about. It's that part of the property. Her property there's no MLS for, so I'm trying to come up with something. So, but to answer your question, the appraisal was just done in 2020.
Okay. And then, so that might be one of the reasons there's that discrepancy in terms of square footage. Another reason that might happen in a duplex like that, what is the architecture? Is it just literally a side-by-side home and it's like 3 levels? Like, do you have like a garage and like 2 levels, or is it like, what does it look like from the outside?
Right. I haven't seen the inside of the home. When you look at it from the outside, the one half that I'm not talking about is all one floor, which I think must have been something that was added on at some point.
Okay.
So this initial part of the house, I'm going to say, because it's next to the garage and that driveway, has actual stairs, and it has a what do you call that? A bedroom where you have to walk through one bedroom to get to the other bedroom. It has a name.
Yeah, tandem,
No, that was also
railroad.
no, it's sorry. It's a captured bedroom. That's what they call it, captured. So in other words, you can't, there's only one door to get into both bedrooms, and you have to
Gotcha.
use a door from one bedroom to get into the other bedroom. So,
Okay. Got it. So the other reason that may have happened, when the tax assessors do the square footage, if they haven't actually been inside the property to measure, they do exterior measurements, and they sometimes even estimate. So that
Okay.
might be why sometimes that discrepancy happened. So when you're
Gotcha.
assessing it, I would definitely, for the sake of your exercise, use what the appraiser had. And then when you're looking to comp this out, ideally, you're going to need to find, in the most ideal circumstance, you're going to need to find another duplex home, so another attached style home.
nothing
And if
exists in that
those
area.
don't
I've checked.
exist, you may just have to find smaller homes that have like a similar square footage.
That's what I've been doing.
And then in a pinch, this almost sounds like it would be almost like a condo alternative. So you
Mhm.
might also want to look at some condo listings to see if there's anything with similar square footage, just to have a snapshot or an idea.
That's a
And
great idea.
finally,
I didn't.
with the taxes, like what is the town assessing it at? What is the town taxing it on? What kind of value? That also can help you in a pinch.
I don't know what kind of value it is, but the taxes, you mean like the tax rate when you say the value? Or the taxes
yes.
are $5,738. The tax rate is 3.43.
So what you might even want to do sometimes is you might even look at other homes that have like a similar tax bill, like around 5,000, and see what the values
Right.
of those homes are. That might give you at least something to get you started, because this is a very unique situation. And
This is
at the
gonna
end of the
be-
day,
right,
you know, the market's going to dictate the price at the end of the day. We can put it out there and
Good.
we can assign a number to it, but the buyer is ultimately going to decide if it's worth that or if it's worth more or less.
Got it. Okay. Thank you
So
so
what
much,
other-
Anna, for your
Oh, my
help.
pleasure. What other questions? I see Juan, you have your hand up.
Yeah, so when we're looking at comparables, we don't look at how many rooms, we look at the square footage of the house, right?
We look at all of it.
Uh-huh.
And I know that gets a little bit confusing, but we want to try and find as many similarities as possible. So in the case of 64 Dora, when we looked back at 6 months of houses in Waldwick that were capes, we didn't find that exact 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath home. So we wanted to find other attributes that were similar in order to say, like, you know, hey, like, I know these guys have another room, but they have, you know, it's a similar square footage, it's similar lot size. It's going to get us into at least a range of what we think the value
Okay,
might be
I get
in
it
terms
now.
of like pricing it.
Yeah, and we just look at sold, not active, or on
We
the
look
contract?
at both. I didn't want to confuse you guys by pulling up both
Got it.
types. So I pulled up sold first, and we're going to look at some actives now.
Okay, thank you.
Which is actually going to be a little bit hard because if you recall from the beginning when we first pulled up the data, there's only 16 homes on the market in Waldwick right now. So pulling the actives is going to be difficult. So we may also look at what's under contract just to give us an idea of what they were going for. And I know we started late and we're already like an hour in. Is this helpful? Do you guys want to keep going? Do people need to jump off? I mean, I want to be respectful of everybody's time.
I'm good.
One answer. All right, you vote for everybody, Juan. All right, so we'll go back to sharing my screen here. All right. So I'm just going to make note of these 3 properties before I move on to the active. So we've got, so I checked off here, you guys. I checked off 37 Grove, 55 Lincoln, and 78 Moore. Now I'm going to go and look at some actives. So I'm going back to everything except I hit revise search, and now I'm going to status, and I'm just going to edit the status and look at active and see if anything comes up. So right now in Waldwick, there are no Cape Cods for sale within a half mile of Dora Ave. So I'm going to take away this map search. I'm going to see if any Capes are on the market. So there's only 2 Cape Cod style homes on the market. And they're actually on the other side of market from the other side of Waldwick from Dora. But 2 might not give us enough of a snapshot. So we've got 2 options here. We can go by maybe like bedroom count in 3-bedroom houses and see what comes up. We can look at under contract as well. But those 2 homes that are Capes are so different in value that we kind of need something else to go by, because, you know, when we looked at our sold properties, everything was kind of in the mid 400s. And now we have, you know, about an $80,000-$90,000 value range here. So we got to narrow this down somehow or find more properties. So let's take that all away. And let's just look at the 16 homes that are on the market here in Waldwick. So this is a little tough because on the surface here, I'm not seeing anything like super similar to Dora Ave. Like we've got this Malcolm Street that's 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath, but it's a colonial. So it gets a little confusing, like what do we do? Where do we go? What do we bid? So let's revise the search. Let's also check out what's under contract in Waldwick, and maybe we'll have some better luck with what's going on in the current market and if there's any other kind of Capes to compare Dora to. All right, so this brings us to 5 homes, but what might be helpful to look at is this Summit Ave. Summit's actually very close to Dora. Oh, I actually interviewed for this listing and lost it. Boo. Anyway, okay, so this home, it has an additional full bath and it has 1 extra bedroom. I would say condition wise, very similar to the Dora Ave property. Unlike Dora, it does not have a garage. It's on a similar size lot. Let's just see what the square footage of this guy was. 1433, so it's a bit bigger than Dora. Not significantly, but this actually ends up being a good kind of active comp in the market here. I'll make a note of 108 Summit. All right, so I'm gonna get out of there for a moment. So this is something that you're going to run into in this market where it's like, I don't have any comps to work with. What do I do? So you have a few different options here. One, as you saw, we looked at data that was not just active. We also looked at under contract. The other thing that we can go back and do, we can look for homes with similar lot sizes and square footage and see their condition and determine it that way. And the other thing that we can do with our clients is, while the actives are important, because they moved so quickly, if the solds happened relatively recently, we just put a little bit heavier a weight or a little bit more of an emphasis on what sold versus what's active, because we just don't have the data to go by. So those are some of the suggestions that I would make to you in terms of that. So, all right. Any questions before I share my screen again?
Go ahead, Anna.
All right, thank you. All right. So I'm going to broaden up my search here. I'm going to take away Cape Cod style homes. Going to keep it to certain bedroom count. And so I just kind of switched around my parameters a little bit. I took away the style of the home, but I pulled up homes that are active and under contract, that are between 3 and 4 bedrooms and 1 and 2 baths. And I think what I will also do is find something with a similar lot size. Let's tighten that up. Let's say. All right. We've got 6 homes to choose from here. And, oh, this is a good thing, guys. So I just tightened up some of those parameters, and I actually think it gave us some comps that will eventually support some of our values, because some of the values are very similar to the sold values. So one of the properties that came up was that 108 Summit that I mentioned would be a good comp for this. Next, we've got 82 Dora. So 82 Dora may not be a Cape Cod, but it's pretty much on the same block as 64. And we're talking about 3 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. So, and on the surface, it actually has a lot of similar attributes to 64. So I think this might be one worth considering to use. Let's just double check what the square footage is. It is a bit smaller at 988, but it still gives us something to work with in the current Waldwick market. So I'm gonna keep this one as one to consider. And then let's check out this 83 Moore Ave. This one is a ranch, or the style is also known as a raised ranch. So not necessarily going to have the same buyer for this style home. But we've got aesthetically something kind of similar on the interior, where it's, you know, some elements are dated, some are up to date, still looks, you know, on the surface well maintained. The lot size on this guy is a bit bigger. Let's see what the square footage is. Square footage is actually a tiny bit smaller at 1170. So that's one to consider.
And if I could just
Yes.
point out, you're very experienced at this. You also know your market. And you've seen some of these homes, driven by, seen them, inspected them. And it's still taking you a lot of analysis, a lot of looking at the details. It's a process not to be rushed. And so I'm admiring and respecting that this is a very serious part of our jobs. And it's not something we rush through. And so, yeah, I'm glad to see you going back and forth and studying and, yeah, looking at the details of the homes.
And it's hard. I mean, ultimately, like I said before, like market's going to determine price, and ultimately, you know, this just gives us a snapshot and an idea. But one thing that I can show you guys is, as we looked at what's sold and as we look at these kind of active comps, we know at this point, there's enough information here that we know at this point that Dora's probably worth like mid 400s right now with everything that I've shown you tonight. Let me just take note of this address, 83 Moore. All right, so we're gonna wrap up shortly. We've pulled our comps, and now I'm just gonna kind of put it together for all of us. And I'm just going to, for tonight's purposes, show you briefly how to pull up the CMA report here in the MLS. I didn't write down MLS numbers, so I'm just going to quickly go through this list and check off these homes that I made note of. All right, so I've pulled all my comps, and now what I'm going to do is, in this drop down menu over here, I'm going to choose this CMA report. And I'm going to hit go. And I don't remember the MLS number for 64 Dora. Let me see.
Ordinarily, you wouldn't
One-
have an
183.
MLS number for a subject property though, correct?
If the subject property sold and there's a listing for it, I will. And that's why I wanted to pull this up, because what's going to happen now, you can do this manually, right? You can go down here and you can put all this information. But because I just pulled up the number for Dora,
Do you want the number?
I'm going to put in the MLS number here. And I'm going to press enter, and it's going to auto populate a lot of the information that I need. So here we go. So that's Patty, why I used it. So this is a lot of the information I already know about the property. So you would, if you were doing this for somebody, you would put in all this information if there wasn't MLS data. And even when it auto-populates, some things have changed. So the taxes since 2018 have gone up, so I would want to fix that. But what I want to
Also,
show you, I guess, go ahead.
I'm sorry, my broker hat comes out. You know, just make sure that the data, not only the tax, but everything else is the same, that there haven't been updates or deletions or
Exactly. You know, we're doing the assumption that's nothing's changed at this house in the last 3 years. But there could be, I've gone on listing appointments where I do like a little bit of a brief CMA ahead of time, and I go on the appointment and they've made so many updates that half my stuff goes out the window. So in any case, without doing any adjustments and just with what we pulled tonight, we're gonna choose this option here, pricing and reports. And this is where we're going to let, what the heck? Sorry. Oh, I need a name. Sorry, guys. Bear with me.
Oh,
John. Doe. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so we're going to go to pricing and reports here. And this is without making any adjustments. It's going to give us some interesting information. So when I say adjustments, it means when we switch up values for, we change things about the comps to make them more similar to the subject property. So for example, we know that 64 Dora is a 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath property. So we would have to make adjustments to like a 4-bedroom and deduct some value to make it a 3-bedroom and do some tweaking. But without making any adjustments, what I find really interesting is based on what we've talked about tonight. So it's showing us that based on just the comps that we pulled, we're looking at an average sale price of $442. So, you know, we do already have a really good idea that Dora is going to land somewhere in that mid 400s number. And that makes our jobs a little bit easier because without making huge adjustments, we have just an idea of where we're going to land. And then as you're learning, you can then go and make those adjustments to fine tune this a little bit more. And what I mean by adjustments is like, we're back on this page here and we scroll down and we're going to adjust the comps. And it's going to bring us to this chart where we would then assign values to all these things. And when you're just starting out, you're not going to have any idea what to put here. And that is also a conversation for another day. But this is where you would then, you know, what do you have to do to make a 4-bedroom into a 3-bedroom? The bedroom's worth an amount of money. We don't know, we're not appraisers, what that's going to be. So this is where adjustment charts come into play. And that's something that you can kind of Google and play around with. But again, we're like way over on time for the night. So I just wanted to give you a basic snapshot of this.
Anna, you've given great information. I hope everybody understands all of the statistics. Go in and play, guys, and especially the stuff that couldn't come on the screen. The things that Anna was showing you. Go do those. Go play, do a CMA on your own home. or a friend's home.
Yeah, and again, with what we talked about, and we have all these resources in the chat. If you scroll to the top of the chat, you're going to see the 3 things that I added. But we have like the resource guide, and this is going to at least help you get started when you don't know what from what. And the resource guide is going to give you an idea of how to compare that like with like. So if you're looking at that Cape Cod home and you don't know what's going to be similar, it's going to give you an idea of like what you should be looking for. And then some of the jargon that I use this evening, I basically have a glossary with some of the frequently used terms. So if you're like, what's GLA and what is she talking about? That's going to be in here as well. And then if you look at this electronically, I also have some useful links that you can use as well. Yeah. And then I apologize because this is a little bit more disjointed than when I do a 2-hour to 3-hour workshop in the market center. So I'm sorry if I went like a little bit all over the place. But I hope it at least gave you a better idea of some of the things that you should be looking for when you're helping your customers.
Thank you, Anna.
Oh,
thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm pleased. Thank you for taking the time. And I just texted you to send me if you would, because some people have already asked. So maybe I don't know whether they can't pull it from the chat, but I will gladly email it to anyone.
All right, okay. Awesome.
Just reach out to me and Anna will send me her handouts. And
okay. Before we sign off, let me just go through a couple of the questions here in the chat, and then we can sign off. So Alejandro asked earlier, what exactly is a Cape Cod? So Cape Cod's a style of home. Typically, they are what's considered like a 1.5 story home. So a typical Cape Cod will have usually 1 or 2 bedrooms on the first level, and also a bath and everything else. And then on the second level, you might have 1 or 2 bedrooms. You might have 1 bedroom. You might have no bedroom. But there's usually like a bit of a pitched roof and like a dormer and things are slanted.
Go ahead and Google house styles.
And it's the style of home.
Yeah, yes. Sorry, Anna. But go ahead and Google styles of homes, because you'll need to know what's a raised ranch. Anna was showing you that. What's an expanded ranch? What's a colonial, center hall, side hall? So you need to know that. Go ahead and Google. By the way, when you do enter
the square footage question, that you have to pull up from the tax record. It's not going to be on the forward facing report. I cut you off, Patty. I apologize.
No. Okay.
And then Cindy, you haven't gotten your MLS yet. So this, when you get your MLS, you will be taught a lot of this in terms of like the searches and some of these basic activities. So don't fret. And it is just going to take some time. I mean, I've been doing this for over 5 years, and there's still things that I'm learning to pull in the MLS that I never knew I could do, functionality and stuff. And then someone asked me privately about they're part of like the New York MLS. And it is going to be different. I do have my New York license. I would not be doing the same kind of thing with New York listings. Like the CMA process is a little bit different. But in terms of knowing what information to pull, it's going to be somewhat similar in the search, but their search is the setup for how the search is and the menu and everything is totally different. I think Patty might be able to direct you to a couple of New York agents that could help a little bit better with that. Like Marilyn Vasquez, for example, would be excellent for something like that.
They have great statistics in One Key, but it is a totally different system. Principles are the same, guys. You're looking at houses that you think that the bottom line is, would the same buyer look at the comparables that would look at the subject property?
Exactly. So, all right, guys, thank you so much for your time and that we ran way over and for spending some of your Wednesday night with me.
Thanks, Anna.
All right, guys, thanks so much.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. This was awesome. Thanks.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank
there
you.
you go. It was awesome. Okay. Thanks, Anna. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.